Scenic America's sole mission is to maintain and increase the visual beauty of our country. Perhaps the first effort in this regard came over 160 years ago, when in 1860, Frederick Law Olmsted created parkways free of commercialism. It amazes me that we can still drive north from New York City, the largest metropolitan area in our country, and see the beauty on the Henry Hudson, Sprainbrook, Taconic, Merritt, Sawmill, and Hutchison. Thank you, Mr. Olmsted, and thanks to New York and Connecticut for keeping those places. No doubt he was inspired by Ralph Waldo Emerson, who penned in 1836, quote, "The charming landscape I see this morning is indelibly made up of some 20 to 30 farms. Mill owns this field, Locke that, and Manning the woodland beyond, but none of them owns the landscape. That which belongs to no one man, but to all, is the view." In 1912, that's over 100 years ago, the Honolulu Outdoor Circle Women's Club, City Beautiful, and the Hawaiian Art League boycotted businesses that advertised on billboards, which led them to be banned altogether in 1927. In 1920, Elizabeth Lawton of New York created a National Roadside Council, the precursor of Scenic America. Ogden Nash wrote the following in 1932. "I think that I shall never see a billboard lovely as a tree. Perhaps if those billboards do not fall, I may never see a tree at all." The Saturday Evening Post shared the following. "Roadways have more than a commercial future. They are a spiritual asset, a power to uplift, not only for transportation, but as playgrounds for the people. The Sunday drive became a standard family outing for many in the 50s. I can sure remember that. I hope some of you can as well. Lady Bird Johnson's effort produced billboard control with the 1965 Highway Beautification Act. Sadly, that act has been obliterated by outdoor advertising. In 1971, a song said this, "Sign, sign, everywhere a sign, blocking out the scenery, breaking my mind. Do this, don't do that. Can't you read the sign?" Our highways have become byways, commercial experience on wheels, and we need to be aware of this and hold it at bay. 3 more states ban billboards, Vermont, Maine, and Alaska. But still the visual pollution continues, funded by high-paying lawyers, lobbyists, and assertive advertisers. The latest onslaught is in Oakland, California, where a new Coliseum sports a total of 25 outdoor structures, including a 10-story-high vertical billboard, kiosks and gateways with rotating signs. Today, when games are televised, virtual billboards are inserted behind home plate or adjustment to goal posts. The Coliseum draws 3.6 million people annually and is visible to the 180,000 drivers who pass it daily on the freeway, a lucrative venue indeed. However, today Scenic America focuses on being pro-beauty, not just anti-outdoor advertising. So let's see what we can learn from looking at the visual environment of Chatham County. I've noticed that we decide if we like a place, if it's beautiful or not, by the roadways we take, because everybody's on the roadways going from here to there. And whether you go through Phoenix or Ossimacost, whatever, you're going to see what you can't not see as you travel through a place. And so let's look at the streets that we have and judge Savannah's area and around the outskirts in the whole county. I love what Thoreau said, it's not what you look at that matters, but what you see. So let us try and see our community. Indoors doesn't matter, does it? The top one is a mess, the bottom one is sort of straight. That's your business in your home. because only you and your guests can see it. Outdoors is a different thing. This is public space. It's on our roadways. At the top, it could be any place USA, right? At the bottom, we have another civic area. It's Greenville, South Carolina, in case anybody wonders. I had no idea of shopping or staying there, but it was so beautiful I had to get out of the car and walk about. And I had lunch and spent several hours in that area. Our gateway area is an important roadway to enter any community. This is the eastern entrance to Savannah. Could be improved a little bit. We used to see a lot of the above with a tree-lined area. But unfortunately, in the last few years, from GDOT and development on I-16, this is what we have. It's kind of scary, not only to lose trees, because they certainly are important to take up carbon, to take up water, to provide environment for all sorts of plants and animals. But we're losing that, and so we're going to be trying to get, if not GDOT, the adjacent business owners to plant trees. We don't want to look at the billboards they put on their private property. We want to see trees again. And I hope you'll say yes to that motion when it's made. The elephant in the way to come in from the west is, of course, the overpass on Martin Luther King. It was put in, it was unnecessary. It's just a few blocks away from another exit to bring you into the landmark district. But here we greet you with a nice big billboard. To get rid of that, 10 years in the making, we've had a nice business and public effort with private groups to have things made to bring back the beauty of our entrance and get rid of that flyover. The Savannah Tree Foundation is one participant, and my gosh, they know how to do it with the Rotary. They worked and Historic Savannah Foundation and SDRA, lots of groups. This is what we want to bring back. 8 acres will be available to redevelop. And certainly, instead of the place that divides the very economically viable north end from the depressed south end of this flyover, we have a great opportunity here. With some public funds, I think we can make it, federal funds. So, you know, again, when you have groups of private folks get together with others, perhaps in the city or such places as Wormslow, we had 40 trees planted here by that group last year. And that's the way to do it. Talk about a gateway. The city of Savannah has a beautiful historic district, as you all know, and it's based on the blocks that are created like this, whereby you have a place for the cars, then a curb, then a tree lawn, and a sidewalk. And then cars are nicely hidden via lanes or alleys. A lovely design indeed. But on the right, you see what has happened to many of our blocks downtown. For the almighty car, we have gotten rid of some tree lawns and pushed cars into its place. This is Jones and Whitaker. They have created a nice little green space on Whitaker, but still, now that this gas station is turned into a shop, have not restored a tree lawn on the Jones side. And across the street, it's even worse. No longer a filling station, but definitely in need of continuing that pattern language of the tree lawn. I'm hoping that we can also have a public-private effort to restore an area like this. Things go on the sidewalk that really shouldn't, and if they have to, they should be beautiful. I think this could be beautified a little bit. So the borders are very important of our streets, and the booklet that you can get from the city on how to do this is readily available. Just call City Hall or Public Information, and they will bring this to your attention. There are things you're allowed to put in the tree lawn and things you aren't. Anything that's impervious doesn't go in a tree lawn. The Savannah College of Art and Design, they do great landscaping, and they got a prize last year from Scenic Chatham for buying a building from the city On the left is the way it looked originally, and now they put back their tree lawn, their border, in the bottom photograph. Things come out on the sidewalk such as this. You do need a little bit of space to get into the front door, but on the right you see some developer got permission to block about half the sidewalk with porches all the way down on Congress Street. That's just a couple of years old. This should not be allowed. We need a place for pedestrians. We need that border. Another use of our sidewalks. Not the right place for a pole.
No.
So Victory Drive, we still try and make it wonderful. But over time, we've had commercial development. That's understandable. But in the meantime, GDOT has not rules, but guidelines about if you have a certain speed of a car, you must have a deceleration lane and an acceleration lane. So you have that to get into the commercial area to the right. However, there were no trees placed back. So we got to get out of our silos and not just think roadways or just think landscaping or just think one, but see the big picture of how we should look and how we keep that lovely pattern of development along Victory Drive, which could someday be a scenic highway. That's not what we want to see on Victory, in my book. New York has always been on the avant-garde of things. They've got this new thing on every block, practically, in Manhattan. It tells you the time and the temp, but many other things, including commercialism. I would prefer a tree there instead, but somehow money talks, and that does bring in a certain amount of revenue for the city. In Savannah, we have to have a place for our cars, and new developers have often created a little spot for a car in your garbage cans. But isn't it tempting to take those things out and make a little courtyard? And so the car and the garbage cans come to the sidewalk. Illegal, not very enforced. Often you see parking on sidewalks or pushing in to the tree lawn and the curb. This is particularly disturbing to me. We've had a number of businesses here, and they have not been told that you can just take that city property and push in, and so today you'll see something like this. This has to be enforced, or we have to say, well, it's okay, and then if you do that, anybody can do it. It's called precedent. This is a little place on the west side, and for a while, the tree lawn was removed and we had parallel parking, but more cars can come in if you go straight in. And so the more the merrier. They just do all kinds of things to get one more car. This is a border, could be improved. This is a border with a tree lawn that has no way of supporting trees and so many curb cuts. The inner service lane should work to get cars from one place to another. You shouldn't have so many curb cuts into a highway like that. This is a residential neighborhood. These people just don't even want to go around the corner, and so they've been allowed to do that, and it's not the prettiest thing in the neighborhood. Or you just get rid of it altogether. This is residentially zoned, but built about 10 years ago on Columbus Drive. And why should you bother with a curb and a tree lawn when you can have all that concrete? You don't have to mow, you don't have to trim. You just bring as many vehicles as you want. Somehow we need more control here. If the zoning doesn't disallow this, we have to figure out how to avoid it coming again. This is Bull Street near the upper 50s and 60s. They can't get much closer to the business, and the border is gone. So what we want is not the upper left, but the right, where there's a place for everything and everything in its place. Beautiful borders and trees in our borders. Somehow when that new station went up for the bus folks, trees were not thought of. And I think we can start putting some bump outs if we really get ourselves together and beat a few drums with the Savannah Tree Foundation and other groups, so that we get some canopy and some softening of this, because it just looks like a prison area without trees, does it not? The top is a new fire station on Whitaker in the 30s. There's just about 3 inches of a tree lawn. Might as well not have it. But they were able to put just a few more square feet in their building by pushing into the borders, and so that's what we're left with. At the bottom is the new police station on Martin Luther, and they have kept a lovely tree lawn. Good for them. However, the headquarters for the police on Havisham looks like this. But there's a huge complex going across the street, and I think we can partner with them. And pedestrians aren't very important there. We require trees in spaces like this above. That's probably been built at the Oglethorpe Mall pre-existing that zoning, but let's make it all like the Malabar complex at White Bluff and Abercorn, trees in parking lots. Any place servicing cars, get rid of, even on Broughton Street, the borders. Above we have Broughton Street, and then the new beautiful landscaping. However, maintenance is always a problem and getting more tough. All these stickers and graffiti that are popping up, it's just overwhelming. And I hope the Downtown Neighborhood Association and others will bring this to their attention and deal with it. That's not the way to treat a new lamppost, or an old one for that matter. "311 is a magical number that we got about 5 years ago. Has anybody called 311? Good. There's also an app that even I was able to have put on my cell phone, so you can just jot down the address, take a picture, and send it on. 311 records a tracking number for any call. So be assured that your request is going to be handled, because you call a few weeks later and say, well, I'm sorry, but nothing has happened, and the tracking number is, you have to be proactive here. And they'll look it up and tell you the status of working on it. So that's the wonderful part of 311. The big loophole is it's complaint driven only. I've asked members of this force, you know the rules. If you go by and see a pothole or a light out, do you stop and do something about it? They say, absolutely not. We don't have the staff. So until they do have the staff, please be proactive and use 311. They do follow through. And we need to follow through with the proper materials. Below is correct, and obviously asphalt does not belong with brick. Now here is a little spot that is in a community I lived in about 30 years ago. Small, beautiful village. In the center is the train station, and people come and go all the time. This is the centerpiece, in a way, of the village. And a few of us got together and started a beautification committee. This was the first thing we looked at. We said to the Public Works Department, we really think we need to improve that. I mean, after all, everybody sees this, and can't you do something about it? We need a little more green. He said, not to worry, we'll take care of that. So this is what we saw the next day. We got some green. But here is one reason why you have a beautification committee or a scenic Chatham, and that is to add a little help to the average that the city can afford. You don't want your taxes to go up a little bit, but if you really care about something, if you pitch in and the city does what it can, you can come up with something like this. The Garden Club and Beautification Council now have this going on in all those triangles. And it's a joy to go to the train station, and everybody loves it. Public space being used for private gain. We have 4 squares downtown now that have some sort of commercial activity, and I would suggest that that's not a very good idea. In our oldest and largest square, Johnson Square, we have the burial site for Nathaniel Greene, who was second in command to George Washington. And this is what you have in front of it. This man, I guess, pre-exists the zoning, and he's been an old timer, and everybody's nice to everybody back in the day, and so he gets to keep this option. Do you know what he pays per year for a permit to do that? $85. I'll take that tomorrow if they give it to me. What a space. All the foot traffic there. I figured he's got about $15,000 a month if he's in a building around this, but right in the street where all the pedestrians go by, he's got a deal. Plus, now they've added commercialism by putting these slow rides with people that stop and start, stop and start. Why do they stop all the time? To get another drink. And the more drinks they have, the louder they are. And I think it's pretty obnoxious. But that is a place now for 5 of those to park, pick up, and walk off people. We used to have wraps on buses. Thank goodness the CAT board agreed to take them off. And so we don't see these big rolling billboards anymore downtown. You can have any place USA, or you can have a lollipop Art Deco sign like on the right. And in the historic districts, most people really like those little sense of place, cute bus stop signs. And so there's some neighborhood associations that have been working with CAT to restore them. Fences make a difference. They're on the borders of our community too. And we need to require that landscaping happen on the exterior of a fence. The bottom one is simply chain link, but it's beautifully landscaped with just some ivy. And that is a place where I really feel pushed away. And there's no room, so this fence section of our code needs to require about 3 or 4 feet back so that there is room to landscape. Not with vinyl, which is definitely reflective and ugly in historic districts, but below something wonderful, like is on East Broad. Color makes a difference. The only place we can legally determine color is the Landmark Historic District. And we want to think about that. And especially, we've been working a long time. We are in Savannah, but we have on the radar, I think, in the sanitation department to replace the tops of these garbage cans. This color draws your eye. You know that all of the different traffic and other directives are in bright yellow. So let's don't draw our attention to garbage when we don't have to. Something that is more muted and goes into the landscape. This definitely is something we need. We want more bicycles, but maybe on a little more muted path. And we could even have a nice pattern of the bike lanes to be designed maybe by a SCAD student, who knows, so that it would be just Savannah has some nice way to tell you, this is just for bikes. This is too chromatic. This is more blended in. And which looks like Savannah, or which is what you want us to look like. I think it blends beautifully on the right in the landscaping. We don't need to advertise, and I think kids will be just as happy playing with the unit on the right. Okay, signs. To your left, the typical McDonald's sign, right? Beautiful historic steeple. And by the way, we also work to get power lines buried. And the first thing you'll hear about, oh, it's too expensive. Federal funds are now available to do this because it's a lot easier to restore power and not even have it go out if it's underground. So if you have an area that you think we can partner with to get underground wiring, that would be great. Can you guess where the picture on the right was made? Anybody? Where? Yes. No, excuse me, New Mexico. That's Santa Fe. Now, Santa Fe got a little notice that McDonald's wanted to come, and everybody said, terrific, we like that food, we'd love to have you. But you have to make it look like us. So only if you ask will they pull Plan B out of their pocket. And they said, well, that's a little bit better than your old standard franchise building, but we think it still doesn't speak to Santa Fe. Well, McDonald's said, well, what is Santa Fe? Well, it's Adobe architecture, and we sell a lot of turquoise jewelry, so here we have it. Definitely says Santa Fe. Signs, signs, everywhere signs. These are all illegal. You can either take them down yourself, if you're kind of not too timid about it. You can't put them on posts, on telephone poles, or trees, totally illegal, or in public spaces like medians and parks, and city rights of way, which is from the curb in about 8 feet from every street. Or you can just leave it, depending. And if you do, then you might get something like that, which I picked up in one day just in Ardsley Park. That was 20 years ago. We don't get that many today, but people still want to do it. It's just easy. There are other ways to advertise, and if one person does it, everybody wants to. And that's the way you judge if something's a good idea, I think. If everybody did it, how would that be? We had a tour of homes and gardens the day that these came down, and so we wanted to get them out of the way, and they really don't belong on the public right-of-way. You may put up a digital sign, but can only change once every 24 hours. If you see a sign wiggling and jiggling and dancing in all sorts of colors, that is illegal, except the city has turned a blind eye to 3 large groups. The government buildings, they don't have to follow our zoning. They also don't look at churches, and they don't look at the school systems. And so I'm seeing these beautiful new schools, like one on Durin, lovely, lovely campus. But a billboard is just dancing all around all the time. It's a small, it's not billboard really, but it acts like one in terms of the digital movement. So I think a government of all people of all groups, should follow the rules. They shouldn't be exempt. Only 18 inches from the building, and 1 sign per business. The beautiful building down below is Parker's, but it's not in Savannah. Can anybody guess where that is? Bluffton, good, somebody said Bluffton. They have very good zoning, don't they? If you're gonna have places in public areas to advertise, use something like this to the bottom and work through the city. Don't just let it go up and not be required to remove it, like at the top left. All you really need is a number. Now we have GPS, and there's the number on that stanchion. But even this is okay because it's below the tree line. They haven't cut trees to tell you things. And I think the sign people that build want to build the biggest because they get the most revenue. But I think that logically, if you're selling something, you want to look straight ahead and see what's there. And actually, signs should be for information, not for advertising. At the top, 20 years ago, we had a few signs on Bay Street to tell you what was down on River Street. Well, today we have more signs. They don't pay anything. They don't ask to put their sign up. They just appear. You would think the city would respond to this. Nobody's complained except the person you're looking at, but I think it's time to regulate that. And if we allow it, maybe control how it looks and charge something. 100 places to shop on River Street, but only a few have taken the liberty of advertising above it. Illegal. 1 sign is okay. On the corner, you may have 2. Balloons and blow-ups, not legal. But 3 signs might sell that place faster, don't you think? Or you can really go all out and have 2 banners and 4 signs. Banners are illegal too. You may cover windows with 10% of advertising. This is obviously more. 311 will take care of that. Height is not controlled in our state. Blow-ups, well, that was 20 years ago. I don't see anything quite like that, but it still took away a lot of trees. And here we have too much signage for that building. This is illegal, but will not be enforced unless somebody calls and said, too much, illegal. That's dangerous as well as ugly. You can't see when you leave that station around the corner and the cars coming along. Enmark can sell you gas just as easily with a lower sign. Another good Parker sign and village station at the landings, right? Burger King, amidst landscaping on the right. Can you believe same product in both those places? Signs can be works of art, can they not? Billboards, the big Magilla. 10 of them are allowed because they are pre-existing zoning in historic districts. The rail companies put up a bunch on President Street. But look what happens if you get rid of it and build something more appropriate. This actually was removed by the new owners of Late Air, Victory, and Bull. Thank you to the owners. Because after all, billboards are supported by the people that own the land. You could end up like this, or you could use a little sign that GDOT will give you on your highways. Or you could have no signs at all, but somehow I still want to be there. Lighting is important, and here's a lamp that used to be on Broughton Street. I'm hoping yet to see these at the intersections. They're a little taller, but they're the real deal. This scale is beautiful, and it deserves to be remembered. Here's a group of different associations that were able to bring back a 1910 design at Atlantic and the Mall at Victory Drive. And now you see these wonderful restorations up. Lights here were put up by the owner and permitted. Actually, we need a plan, a pattern language the city has, because there's no place else in the landmark district that has lamps like this. And they're probably too many. You could have 3 there. But this is city-owned property. They got permission from the city to put those there. And I suppose they were just thinking, well, there'll be light. That means more safety, and so we'll just let them go up. But there are no lights of any kind on the rest of the street. So we have to have what should be a little more in concert. There are 5 different kinds of lamps here. A little bit confusing. You can ask for digitals to be toned down. Sometimes you almost have to squint when you look at them. And you have to have flush lamps in your car areas, not drop, which are more difficult to look at. Now here's a wonderful business, right? They are, and I make no judgment about this. I'm just saying we ought to talk about what we want downtown, and do we want one thing or another with lighting? Because we need to look at it as a whole, and it's changed, and I'm sure it's probably pretty good, and some of it's soft and interesting, but there's some things that are kind of crazy. Lamps that are starting to blink, or borders of windows that have bright lights around them. So this is a city concern. This is a place-defining bit of information. For example, we've got to get rid of sodium vapor. Sodium vapor makes everything look the same color. Below, it looks like it's supposed to. These are the appropriate fixtures. It's on River Street. This is the old Broughton Street. It's dangerous. It's ugly. Why is it dangerous? Because you can't remember if the man that attacked you had a green shirt or a red shirt. Everything looks monochromatic. And that doesn't work either. We need to keep the color of what is there in the day at night. We certainly don't have blue Spanish moss in the median on Abercorn. And we can't see Oglethorpe here. Something's wrong. That's been improved since. In fact, we had a whole design made for all monument lighting by the Rotary years ago, and then it was redone recently. And they have all of how-to at the Park and Tree or Greenscape department. On the left, you think it's the fall because the trees look orange. No, it's not. It's green, and that's the way it should look. So it does make a difference. Lighting can be wonderful. So we want our borders to have tree lawns and the attention to detail. we want trees, and we want to remember all these little things that add up because they mean something individually, but together they make all the difference. We need a comprehensive plan, which is updated every 5 years. So be around for your input on that. We need zoning, education, and of course, without enforcement, none of it means anything. So if all that happens, we can love and cherish the place we live in. And I thank you so much for your attention.